In the past 4 years, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has been presenting its seasonal climate prediction to Nigerians at the onset of the growing season. And through these predictions, Nigerians have been kept abreast of the vagaries of the weather in the country, as it is a known fact that more than 75% of farmers in Nigeria rely on rainfall for agricultural activities. And the NIMET 2021 prediction is no different, as it is said to be normal to above normal annual rainfall is to be expected throughout the country. However, NIMET predicts a below to normal rainfall over a few places in the northwestern parts of the country, to include Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, and Kano states, while also advising farmers in the north-central zones against hasty planting in order to avoid losses due to the early rainfall recorded, but recommends that preparation of planting activities such as clearing, purchasing of farm inputs by farmers should commence as scheduled. Favorite weather conditions, according to agriculturists, influences crop growth, yield, and sometimes pest control. And this is why information on weather remains crucial to farmers. Last year, the rains came and ceased as predicted by NIMET. The season was characterized with flooding and drought, with adverse effect on farmers' output who didn't adhere to warnings from NIMET predictions. Will it be different this year, as another farming season is just around the corner and farmers are gearing up to commence the season? Will the prediction be treated with levity just like previous years, leading to severe consequences like bad weather, flood, and drought? Should government carry out sensitization campaigns on weather patterns to make farmers aware of their implications on farming activities? How can farmers keep themselves abreast of these weather patterns to avoid perennial wastages by natural factors over ignorance on climate change matters? These are some of the questions our guests will be giving answers to on Tuesday Live tonight as we discuss NIMET prediction and 2021 farming season. I am Omini Oden, but first, let's take a listen to this background put together by Musa Baba Aliyu.
Gradually getting darker as the clouds thickened, signifying that the rainy season is here again. These farmers in Dutsama, Katsina State, are clearing their farms preparatory to the planting season. They told me they have procured seeds and fertilizer for the season. Though farming activities for the rainy season are yet to commence in most parts of northern Nigeria, farmers in the south have started planting.
The Nigerian Meteorological Agency has advised farmers in the north-central zone of the country, and particularly Niger, Benue, Abuja, and neighboring states like Kaduna, against hasty planting in order to avoid losses due to the false onset of rains recorded recently. The agency will recommend that other preparatory planting activities such as clearing, land clearing, purchase of inputs by farmers should commence as scheduled.
These farmers say they will maximally utilize the rainy season by planting early maturing crops and also harvest in good time to avoid a repeat of what happened last year. It could be recalled that last year's delay in crop harvest resulted in the washing away of crops owing to the flood which submerged many farming communities. Access to inputs such as fertilizer, seeds and other inputs is another hurdle farmers will have to cross, as the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has stopped the buying, selling and distribution of fertilizer to farmers.
Fertilizers, producers, blenders and dealers will from henceforth be very careful to ensure that farmers are supplied with adequate quality fertilizer for their own use. This law is going to be enforced. This law is going to be implemented.
Today, we have an efficient fertilizer regulatory system which would ensure that the right kind and quality of fertilizers are sold to farmers at good prices, such that while small-scale farmers achieve higher crop yields, the environment will not also be negatively impacted.
In the meantime, the Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria says it has produced more than 1 million tons of fertilizer and are available nationwide.
Yeah, well, when the program started, the 5,500, that was a gesture by the president as to make fertilizer affordable for the common farmer in Nigeria. But that's the NPK 2010-10 fertilizer. But there are over 20 different type of NPK. But this particular NPK 2010-10 was what was put for 5,000 for the period of 3 years, and the president extended for another 1 year, making 4 years. Okay. Now the industry has been restructured by Mr. President for sustainability. Now there are crop-specific fertilizer being made, so prices vary depending on the type of NPK you want to buy.
Insecurity in some farming communities is another major source of concerns to farmers.
Our only plea now, Minister, is for you to make sure that we have security in our farms for us to be able to produce during this farming season. If you do that, we are sure, Honorable Minister, that we are going to have food security in our country.
But the security agencies say they are in control of the situation, assuring to provide adequate security in both urban and rural areas. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu.
NIMET prediction 2021 farming seasons, the focus tonight on Teaser Live. You can be part of the conversation tonight via our Twitter handle at Teaser Live NTA. Also, at some point in the course of the program, our phone lines will be displayed on the screen. Please, if we're true to you, turn down the volume of the television set and go straight to the point. You don't need to rigmarole. Please, in doing this, it will help us solve the problem of hallback or echo. And also, in the course of the program, to sustain the conversation, we shall be doing a couple of reports across the country. Tonight, we shall be going to Lafia, Benin, Bauchi, and Enugu. Well, I'm being joined tonight by a couple of guests. Right here I have Professor Mansour Bako Matazo. He is the Director General, Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, and also permanent representative of Nigeria with the World Meteorological Organization. Good to have you on the program tonight.
Yeah, good evening, and thanks.
Also joining us is Kabiru Ibrahim. Kabiru Ibrahim is President, All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Samuel Negedu is President, Fertilizer Producers Association of Nigeria. Good to have you on the program.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, we begin. DG, let me begin. It's a routine, more or less, or call it a ritual. And first of all, let me say congratulations.
Yeah,
how is it like settling down in NIMET?
Actually, everything is going smoothly and fine. Remember, I've been with NIMET for the last 6-7 years. So it's fine.
Okay. Normal to above normal annual rainfall predicted by NIMET for 2021. What does this imply? What does this signify generally?
Yeah, actually, good evening, Nigerians. If you could vividly remember, precisely on the 2nd of February, our Minister, Senator Hadi Sirika, presented to public in Abuja the 2021 seasonal climate prediction, and in which we explained the detailed pattern of the growing season in form of what we call rainfall effectiveness. And this entails on the different components of the rain. That is even before the onset, we have the false onset, which we call pre-onset activities. And this is what we've been witnessing in the last couple of weeks around the north-central part of the state country, of Kaduna, Abuja, parts of Jos, Niger, and parts of Kaduna that witness some early rains, and which is a false onset. The other component is the real onset, and that is when you have well-established accumulated amount of rainfall that has established enough moisture of about 50 to 60% in the soil, which will allow some easy germination of seeds after planting. So that's a very important component. And the other component of the predictions is the length of the growing season. That is the lifespan of the seasons, and also, of course, the total rainfall amount. So if you add these 3-4 components together, it will give an average farmer a decision support tool or information on what type of seeds shall I go for this year. And this is very critical, and we've been collaborating with so many organizations, and including farmers associations. So we invited several stakeholders, and so more than 1,300 stakeholders joined us virtually in Abuja, and about 400 also joined live physically. So this also, we followed it up with some downscaling activities with some state governments and other key partners, so that we now downscale the information to state and local government levels. So remember, the focus we provided also entails on all the 774 local government areas of the country. And this is just to give a clear idea on the pattern of the season to make farmers now utilize the information for improved yield. It has shown greatly that if you adopt the use of climate information in the agricultural sector precisely, you tend to reduce loss by more than 90%. And loss due to vagaries of weather and climate in the form of high-intensity storm or in the form of dry spell, and etc. And of course, if you are reducing loss, definitely the yield will increase. So global literature indicates that, and we have seen it even in Nigeria, adopting our weather and climate information in the farming activities increases yield by a minimum of 30%. Some have recorded more than 50-60%. We've had so many testimonies during the last 4-5 years from community farmers across most parts of the country testifying the advantage of this adoption of this climate information for farming activities.
So going by the prediction, if they adhere strictly to it across the platforms or the value chain, maybe transportation, agriculture, all that,
yes.
Comparatively, what will it be like this year compared to last year?
This year will be a bit wetter, because the general picture we're seeing, remember we base our forecast with so many indicators, and one of which is the what we call ENSO, that is El Nino Southern Oscillation, the state of the sea in the Central Pacific, and also which also create a signal in West Africa and also subsequently Nigeria. In addition to some other factors, regional and local factors that contributes into this. So generally for this year, it's a La Nina year, that's the ocean is in its cold phase, and this signifies a general normal to above normal. So substantial, more than 60-70% of the country will witness normal to above normal rainfall pattern in terms of amount, and then the growing season. Some areas will see longer than normal length of the growing season, and that is a good advantage, especially for farmers. While a few pockets of areas will witness, as you mentioned earlier, below normal rainfall, especially in the western parts of the country. So, and all these things there will be difference with last year. Last year was highly. It was very active year, because we witnessed some. Also incursion of what we call a mid-latitude trough with IOD, Madingellan or oscillation. So this contributes to intensification of the system. But even in a normal year, there are peak periods between July to September. We tend to have high-intensity rain, persistent rains, and by that time soil moisture is high. That tend to generate flash floods in cities, and also because Nigeria lies in the lower parts of the Niger Basin and River Benue also. So we receive inflows from these international rivers, and of course that now contributes to some submergence and flood activity. So this we provided details adaptation techniques, especially in agriculture, water resources, transportations. So in our document, seasonal climate prediction is on our website. We also distributed physical copies to all stakeholders, and of course we even translated it to 3 major languages. There will still be high intensity rain because of climate change. So we are beginning to see short duration, high intensity storms would tend to generate a lot of flash floods because high intensity rain of about 50 millimeter or more than that within 30 minutes or 1 hour will tend to block all the soil pore spaces and then enhances runoff, and that tend to generate a lot of flash flows. We have witnessed a lot of this in some parts of the southern parts of the country, and also the beginning of the season is also associated with high intensity windstorms, especially we have seen this in some southwestern states, including even Abuja of recent this week.
Okay, let's go to Kabiru Ibrahim. Kabiru, as the president of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, how has the association processed this message, normal to above normal annual rainfall? Have you trickled down the message right down to where one would say the real farmers live? Do you understand it? Have they been able to be educated to get prepared to follow on this?
The leadership of AFAN is in the 774 local governments, and I am at the national office. So any information that we get, especially on climate, is transmitted right down the line to every farmer in the language that he or she understands. So it's a very important information, and we have seen the benefits that we derive from using that information to plan our activities. So this information has been going down to the last farmer, and we're happy for it. We upload NIMET. We are always anxious to know what is going to happen and what certain things portend to the farming community or farming activities of the farmers. And as Prof said, using that information will help us to maximize our yield in some areas and then to cut our losses. And it's very, very important because the farmers go to the market like everybody else, and we are looking at agriculture as a business now. We should be able to make money to buy other things and meet other commitments. Therefore, we hold dear this information that we get. It's unlike before when people used to do it, without any good science and good technology and all that. Right now, we are attracting so many youngsters into the activities, and a lot of information is going down to help us to do very good, smart agriculture. And then this information from NIMET is timely and is very welcome. We encourage all our farmers to abide by whatever the do's and don'ts are, because the losses that are incurred in floods and other things, or plantation drying up and all that, it's very, very devastating. Therefore, I think Nigeria is better for this. This information is very, very good. We encourage every farmer to abide by it, and we will partner more with NIMET to be able to accentuate this flow of information. And as Prof said also, the information is even translated into 3 languages. So it's available for everybody. It doesn't have to be in English. It can be in these other languages. And the leaders are also residents of the areas where they are, and they will translate and speak to the farmers in the language that the farmers understand. So, and this is what happens all over the world. What we want more than anything is to be able to do agriculture all year round. We must be able to do it because that's what really optimizes production. If you go to other places like, if you go to France, for instance, people even use groundwater to do all year round production, because we must be able to use what we have and what we have access to maximize our production, because our population is very, very large now. Come 2050, Nigeria will be almost 400 million. Now with 200 million, we are not able to feed ourselves. And you know that our strategic position in Africa is very vital, because whether we like it or not, we feed many parts of Africa. And now with this, with AFTA, we are poised to play a better role than we were playing before. And we need to take advantage of this, our arable land, our population, and this information that we get from the NIMET and other places to be able to maximize what we produce so that we can be the true brother's keeper of Africa. I think I don't want to elaborate more than this at this point, but as time goes on, we will be able to make comments. But certainly this year, with the information that we have, we will not make the mistakes that we made last year, when we had devastations in our plantations being washed away completely. If you look at what happened in Kebbi and in Jigawa, it really sent our people out of business. And that's why we have this serious deficit. Even in the market now, people are complaining about even the homegrown rice is very costly. It's attributable to all this. You know, there are many factors that can affect this, but flooding was very devastating. I understand that COVID played a role, insecurity played a role, but you know, the flood that was not expected at all came and played a very important role in the food system. So we must take care to abide by whatever advice we get from the NIMET to be able to avoid that, and we should be able to avoid that.
As much as you have given us the strategies in place, if you analyze participatory rural appraisal, most often the change agent approach works. For instance, are you also adopting the change agent approach where maybe the farmers are also spoken to in their village gatherings, in the marketplace, in the churches, the mosque, where they have much more informal discussions and they will understand these things better? Are you adopting this?
The leaders live amongst the people, and they talk in the languages they understand. And mind you, 70% or more of the population of Nigerians are really farmers. Some of them discuss nothing else but agriculture and farming. So this information trickles to people in these ways. People go to the market and get information on inputs, on weather, on all these things, and even the crop types that they will plant. So this is the way that we disseminate information. I mean, information in Nigeria is very critical at this point, and thanks to social media and even market gatherings and all that, the information really goes to where it is needed. We do adopt all these methodologies that you outlined.
Gideon Negedu. Gideon, I understand you are the Executive Secretary, Fertilizers Producers Association of Nigeria, not the President. Now, I want to put this question across to you through this assertion. If Nigerians work according to climate warming from NIMET and other related agencies, farmers will adopt climate-smart agriculture by planting improved variety crops that would not be damaged due to inadequate rainfall. In giving fertilizer inputs to farmers, do you also consider the weather conditions?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the correction. Yes, we are part of the ecosystem, so we are not exactly excluded from the vagaries of the weather. And we also try to, as a community, put in our best foot to see how we can collectively solve the problems that affect agriculture in the country. What we do with specifics to inputs like fertilizers is that we are careful about the kind of fertilizers that we give. Our industry focuses on ensuring that farmers understand the gaps in the nutrient status of their soils by promoting what we call, as part of your climate smart approach, soil testing. So when they test, they are able to know the quantities of nitrogen, for example, which is a very important nutrient that's in the soil, is very crucial for growing rice and growing maize, generally the cereals. But nitrogen also leaches very easily. So one of the things we do is we have formulations that ensure that we advise farmers in a just-in-time approach, so that the nutrient is there just when the crop would require it, given the different properties of the various nutrients that we deal with. So yes, we do provide, I'm careful to use the word climate smart, but as an ecosystem, we do have specific challenges that affect the soil, and you cannot really divorce the interface between the soil and climate. So to that extent, yes, we give what we call crop-specific and area-specific fertilizers. So in a nutshell, the kind of fertilizers you will use in the northern part of the country don't necessarily have to be the same. It is driven by what the nutrient status in each part or each area that the farmer is growing. Also, the nutrient requirement of the crops, okay, also differs. Nitrogen is highly demanded by cereal crops, but not so for soya beans and beans that are legumes that fix their own nitrogen. So as an industry group, we also ensure that we do what we can, working with our farmers to also enlighten and educate them, like I said, as part of a global community.
Thank you. DG, are you worried when you come up with predictions and sectors that are supposed to take your predictions seriously or adhere to them strictly? For instance, we're looking at just farmers here, but we have other sectors like transportation, sectors that depend on weather most times to get all this done, planners, all that. They don't adhere to it. Are you worried? And what M&E do you have in place to follow up to ensure that this group of this class of persons, these platforms adhere? And if they do not adhere, are there sanctions?
Okay, thank you so much. If you, when you take climate services, value chain, and you can segment it into three. And the upper chamber is those that produce forecast. And that is where NIMET lies. We have over 100 years data archived, so we use different models, and then we generate forecast. And when you generate this forecast, it's a perishable product. I used to tell people, stakeholders, that forecast is just like moi moi. If you no matter how good is moi moi, if you don't get it across to the users, it will get spoiled. So if we do forecast, it have a timeline. And the second category in the climate service value chain is the enablers. NIMET cannot be everywhere in the country. So we have organization, vertical and horizontal organization like NEMA, National Emergency Management Agency, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Power. Most of these stakeholders are the enablers. So when we release the information to these enablers, who will now, some of them use it as an MDA for planning purpose, and then also downscale the information vertically to the users, thereby reaching out to farmers, reaching out to all other, like in early warning, people living on the floodplains and other things. When we issue out forecast, a lot of is capital intensive. It consumes time. We use a lot of satellite products. We have upper air and then also ground observation. So it's time consuming and it's always very worrisome if such forecasts are not heeded, they're not adhered to. But in the value chain, we don't issue out forecasts as scientists and stay to wait for what happens. So in the value chain, we do what is called two-way communication. We generate the forecast. First of all, WMO encourages us also that we should involve the users of forecast, even in generating the forecast. So what we do, by the time we run the models, we call all the MDAs in the country. especially those at the federal government level, to now discuss the forecast. Okay, how will this focus will have influence or impacts on agriculture, on water resources, on disaster risk management, of course, on health. So they now profile and now translate the impact of the focus to the specific sectors. And with this, we now come up with the product known as the seasonal climate predictions. So if we do this and we now release it, our downscaling activities now allows us to have even contact with the users. So there's a component in forecasting that we call user communication. When you involve the users in generating the forecast, you now generate and then relay the forecast. You then follow up to see first, we even monitor the performance of the forecast scientifically. And we have reliably confirmed from our scientific analysis that most of our forecasts achieve more than 90% precision. And this also in addition to the testimonies from different stakeholders. So we do follow to get the response of the users, how they have fared. Some users do not adhere to, and based on our Establishment Act, you cannot force uptake of information, but sensitization is the best, and advocacy. So, and a lot of federal and state government organizations, they are helping us with this, and we are beginning to see improvement in the uptake. But the problem is people always tend to forget easily of high impact weather. So people live along the floodplains, and even at times when we advise that there was going to be a dry spell within the growing season, please go for drought-resistant seeds. Farmers, some do not, but there are a lot of organizations at the community level now, and we are using the ADPs and other in the IFAD in some of the states also to reach out to these lead farmers, and they are the one also that easily convince. So communities that are more organized tend to use information and also respond positively. So the response is averagely fair, but we can still do more. And we have this saying in the climate services value cycle that if you spend 1 naira to provide early warning system or signal or information, you are saving about 8 naira. Saving 8 naira in the sense that if the populace now utilize the forecast and now hit to the forecast, so it will avoid a risk that will be equivalent to 8 naira. And that 8 naira will come in providing palliative, in providing relief materials and other things. So, and this is very critical. We're working very strongly with NEMA and other also enablers in the country. But the response from the citizens has been very fair, but there's still room for improvements.
Okay. Besides the fact that we agree that from what you have said, this whole thing has a multi-sectoral approach.
Exactly.
And besides what NTA is doing now, do you have promotionals to update people maybe on a daily basis across the states? And also, you have mentioned sectors, and I hear you mention Federal Ministry of Information like the National Orientation Agency. Do you work with them?
Yeah, very well. Actually, we have stakeholders across the country. I want to put an array of our services that cut across all the sectors. We generate annually the seasonal climate prediction, which is an annual forecast and is very important. And we also update it monthly to give an update of the performance and also the dynamics of the season to update the populace. We also on daily basis, we are witness where we issue our daily forecast, even though the timing is so short that we couldn't get up to 1 minute on NTA, but we are on talking terms to see also maybe with partners if we could get a longer time so that we give detailed forecast with some of the implications. All our social media platforms, they are very active. Our website is also second best, most active website that has been assessed last year, and we're hoping to be the best for this year. We issue also out what we call agromet bulletin every 10 days. It's on our website, and also we have list on our list. We have list of agencies that we release, including NOAA. NOAA is an organization that we value so much because they have representations all over the local governments, and very soon we have arranged even for a courtesy visit to strengthen this relationship. We do issue out also flood prospects bulletin, flood and drought bulletin. We call it flood and drought bulletin, and also we're issuing climate and health bulletin. So all this is to put all the short-term, medium-term, and long-term focus into a package or a form of kit that will be useful. And this is available on our website. We have a list of stakeholders, including media organizations and NTA. And also on our website, we do an extended forecast of about 5 minutes. So it's live also on our website, www.nimet.gov.ng. People can access it. And also, we are very open for partnership, especially with various relevant enablers, MDS, like NTA.
Okay. Let me take Gideon before I go to Kabiru. Gideon, from your analysis, I'm quickened by this question clearly. If you have done this analysis, can we just get a snippet of what you're doing in terms of fertilizer-specific soil tests, maybe across the LGAs, if we have various soil forms in the country? Have you done this?
Yes. We have done that, and we keep updating that data. The first major work that was done in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization of Nigeria of the UN in 2005. Professor Victor Chude was among a team that did an assessment of the soil nutrient status in the country. I'm aware that there's work that is still being done. Companies like OCP of Morocco have been working to help update that database on the kind of status of our soils as of today. That information has been very, very relevant in guiding the fertilizer plants in the kind of crop or the kind of fertilizers or what we call blends that they formulate and put out to the farmers. But what we have as an industry tried to encourage is more of a bottoms-up approach where the farmer is the one carrying out these tests. Obviously, because of the complexity of soil testing, it might be difficult to exactly get farmers to always get the accurate results. But small kits called soil doctors have been produced and shared to farmers. Farmers have also been trained on ways in which they can do very simple basic testing for the core macro elements like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which we call the NPK, as well as some micronutrients that are very key to ensuring that we have they can optimize growth. Like I was saying earlier, we have to be conscious of the kind of inputs that we are providing to our farmers, especially those kind of inputs that are critical, like nitrogen-based fertilizers like urea, but which also leaches very, very quickly. So we have come up as an industry, not just in Nigeria alone, but as part of a global community with innovations that help to release the fertilizers slowly. Some of these fertilizers are coated in a way that they don't exactly give out all their nutrients as quickly as they normally would. We call them slow releasing agents that we put so that they can just provide those nutrients optimally for the crop to be able to grow as well as it should. Now, like I said, it's a little complex, but it has been broken down working with the enablers that Professor Matazo was speaking about, the Ministry of Agriculture and other relevant agencies, to try and see how they can break it in languages that farmers can understand. The feedback we are getting is very, very positive. Over the last 5-6 years, we have seen farmers begin to demand more crop-specific fertilizers. And that's why what we are doing in the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative has had to change gear. Because now you're having farmers being more responsive, asking for more specific fertilizers other than the generic 20-10-10 that has been provided. And we're going to see more of that as farmers adopt more and more the soil testing and the soil, what is called the soil doc that is being promoted now. That way the farmers are better informed and they can be careful on the kind of fertilizers that they demand. Now, don't forget it's an industry and it's a business. It must be demand driven. So we are confident that when you have a sizable pool, the blending industry has grown to be able to meet those kind of needs. So today, whatever blend is required in Nigeria today, we're proud to say that under the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative supported by Mr. President, those fertilizer blends can very well be produced here in Nigeria.
Gideon, Kabiru, agreed. I'm sure you agree with me that government has done so much in terms of providing loans across board for farmers in the country. But the worry is if the connections are not done properly, meaning you connect to disconnect or you disconnect to connect, there's a likelihood that if we do not adhere to the predictions, then the essence of these loans would have been defeated. Are you concerned about this?
Pretty much, you know, when I look at the quantum of money that has been put into agriculture in at least this administration, in the life of this administration, I am puzzled that we still have this skyrocketing prices of food items and things like that. The first thing that comes to my mind is that the farmers being targeted or who access the loans is not that scientifically generated. Because over the years, during ATA, during GAS and all that, we had a figure that government had been bandying. It was like 14.5 million farmers. And all the interventions from the CBN and even this job for agriculture or agri-job that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is promoting, they are only targeting about, one is 2.4, the other one is about 1.1. That is the loans from CBN are targeting to 1.1 to 2 million farmers. Now, if you're talking about 14.5 million farmers and you're only accessing 2.4, then what happens to the others? So what is there is, unless we come to terms with reality, that is to say that we actually give the farmers who will use the loans and pay back for others to get, so that the thing would revolve and many people will get. It will be a very Herculean task for Nigeria to reach the promised land. We have all this information. Gideon has been talking about crop-specific, soil-specific fertilizers, which we have been talking about. We have attended conferences, workshops. Professor Chude we have been working with him. We supported them for the soil science bill. Even the fertilizer bill that we were spokespersons in the Senate for all those, and they were passed. And then we feel that if these things are all enforced, we will get the right kind of fertilizers, the right kind of inputs of whatever kind that we will use. Recently, we even got the FBP bill passed. And there are many, many things that are happening now to help the farmers. But the financing, I think, should be revisited. We should really look at it very well, because the financing is not going to the real farmers. That is why I think the CBN is a bit scared now that all the monies they have been given will not come back. And they are having problems with even NASAL in the way they administer these loans and all that. And I think it's all because, not because I'm in AFAN. You know, I was president of Poultry Association of Nigeria, which is a very important and integral part of the food system. And I know that in that category, we used to have a very close-knitted relationship with each other. So that if, for instance, we had avian influenza at some point, all the farmers came together and we sorted ourselves out. We were even able to get a compensation from government because our voices were heard. Today, we buy all the medications that we have to use for the birds to become, I mean, either to the laying stage or to the table stage. And because we are harmonized in what we think. In AFAN generally, what the financiers do not understand is that the AFAN has a mechanism where we have, we know our farmers. We know them. You are a member of AFAN because we know the coordinates of your farm, we know where you farm, and all the leaders are in your locality. So you cannot come and say you are a farmer when you are not. But what we have seen is that so many briefcase farmers have got these loans, and they are using them, you know, to do other things. That's why they are not repaying. If you look at even the rice program, look at the amount of money that was put on rice, for instance, and now you have almost scarcity because the costs are very high. That non-availability, non-adequate availability is there, and that's why you have these problems. So there are many, it's a gamut of things that you have to look at. While you work to improve the productivity, you also have to judiciously apply finances. There is no point, you know, spending 5 million in a patch of land where you will get only 1 million. Will you go back the following year? You should be able, you must be able to make profit to be able to to be encouraged to go the following year. So there are many things, and it doesn't just take the forecasts of NIMET, the fertilizers. What about the seed system? What about the mindset of the farmer or the typical Nigerian? There are so many people blaming farmers now for skyrocketing prices of food items, but they have forgotten that the dollar has also become very expensive. And the farmers also go to the same markets that everybody else goes to. So whatever they have to sell at a very good price, at a premium, to be able to do other things. So there are many areas that we have to look at, and it takes a lot of hard work and understanding of the system to be able to manage it. We must look at the possibility of putting real good managers to manage the food system in this country, for us to be able to get food security or some semblance of it. The Americas, for instance, are quite comfortable today in science and technology in many forays that they are making, you know, globally, because the people are not hungry. People eat good food, balanced diets and all that, and therefore they have good brain power. They should be able to do that. In this country, our population is growing. The possibilities of really getting food security is diminishing because we have so many problems. If you take the climate change is a factor, is a threat factor. Insecurity is a threat factor. The availability of good seeds, good inputs, mechanization, and so many things are there. So it's not possible for you to really pay back what you borrow, or to be able to do this thing as if it's all roses. There are many problems that you have to encounter every day. But thank God, the attention that is being given now by this administration is very encouraging. And if this continues, if we don't have policy somersaults, and if you have the right kind of people running or managing the MDAs and ministries and all that, I'm sure we'll get there somewhere. Maybe in our lifetime, maybe not. And this is my take, and this is my experience. You know, I've been around for many years. I was president of Poultry Association, now president, and before that I was also, and I still have my farm. So I know exactly what is going on. And everybody is applauded for all the effort. The fertilizer people are making very good effort, and they are making very far-reaching decisions to get us the right kind of fertilizers. They are helping us. The people managing the soil science people are doing a lot of work. The seed system is also getting a lot of attention. This government was the one responsible for the Seed Act 2019. So there are many things that are being done. The only thing is to get all these things together and manage them properly, and with a lot of enthusiasm and with a lot of participation of the farmers. And that's the only way to do it. Because if you go to the United States, for instance, everything that is being done for the farmers is strictly for the farmers, and it's not hidden in bureaucracy. And nobody is segregated against. Everybody is the same. In fact, what we say, our slogan here, is that no farmer, no nation, great farmer, great nation. And then there are no borders amongst farmers. We don't segregate because you are a female or you are a male, you are a pagan or a Christian, you are from the north or from the south. Farmers are the same everywhere. So we need to really get all these things together to coalesce to produce good activities in agriculture that will benefit everybody. Everybody eats food. So it's the problem of every Nigerian to be sure that agriculture thrives. And then you see the dwindling fortunes of oil. The first world countries are getting alternatives to oil. The prices of oil are plummeting today. We must feed ourselves to be able to do any other thing else. So I will call upon everybody to join hands to make agriculture work in this country.
Kabiru, I get your point, but quickly before we take our reports, let me still be on you. You have raised a couple of issues. I remember very well when the Director General of the World Trade Organization came to Nigeria, one challenge he put across to the value chain was the need to tinker towards full-time, full-scale value addition. But that is not for now. What I'm asking you now is, you raised a serious concern, as much as I'm not joining issues with you. Who is the real farmer? Must I be a member of ALFAN to be a farmer? And who are not the farmers? Why, when you say these monies which you have agreed government is giving out to farmers is not going to the real farmers, who are the real farmers?
When you give a loan from a bank, a proposal has to be there and it has to be bankable. And whoever is taking the money from you must show you that this is what they are doing. And you will base your judgment on that reality. In Nigeria, what happens is that because you know people, you tend to get favored. The real farmers are known. I mean, every community, if you go to every community, they know each other. They know who has a farm and who doesn't have a farm. If I come to Abuja, look at my babariga, I'm looking very good. I mean, somebody will think I'm a minister of some sort. So they will imagine that, I have to be here to be able to look good and all that. And that, the man who really owns a farm in my village, Faskari, who really works, tills the land and produces food for Faskari people, it's not necessarily wearing dresses like me, and he has no access to the CBN or anywhere where they give the loans. So we have to go down and meet these people and encourage them to take these loans and to be able to repay, for others to get and to repay as well, so that the whole thing will revolve. The population of the people needing this help is so much that government does not have the money. No bank has the money to give every farmer to do this. So this is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, it's written on your forehead that you are a real farmer. But a real farmer should be able to be accessed. People should be able to know by what you do that you are a farmer or you are not. This is all I'm saying.
We appreciate your line of thoughts there, Kabiru. Well, at this point, it's time to take our reports. And when we come back from the report, we'll take our first break. But when we return, NIMET prediction is really getting to the real farmers, going by Kabiru's submission. Quickly, our first report is coming from Lafayette tonight, and from our correspondent, it says the state is partnering with agencies and critical stakeholders through robust engagements on prevention and management of post-harvest losses.
Studies showed that despite the huge output by Nasarawa State in the area of food production, it has been struggling with the challenge of making them available all seasons. This is because with over 80% of its population mostly farmers, the state is still facing one of the perennial challenges of keeping farm produce to attract good prices, which is largely attributed to lack of modern farming technology, storage facilities, and enlightenment on the side of farmers. Key players said apart from good quality seedlings to prolong shelf life, Post-harvest losses usually start at the point of harvest, where farmers still use crude methods of harvest, which in turn affects the entire value chain of crops.
Handle what they produce from the farm carefully so that we don't lose the quality and the quantity of what is produced. Like I told you, if you dry this in on the highway, it has a lot of impact on the seed. The quality you go to plant will not be the same as one who does not dry it on the quota or on the highway, because the moisture from the quota will affect the content of the seed.
Now, even though the mechanized machines are always at the high side, but we advise our farmers to group themselves. If they are grouped, they can buy one for their group. Today is in this man's farm, tomorrow is in the other, to also assist them in a very long term.
After you have lost some of the harvest in the field, some that are deceased will continue to storage. And before storage, your harvesting method is also important. When you harvest, you must be sure that you don't injure your crops.
They are also of the opinion that it is high time farmers leverage on local technology for harvest and preservation for not only local demand, but for international markets.
Our next report coming from Benin, Edo State, indicates that farmers have adopted a new farming schedule to counter the loss that may arise from any flooding disaster. It says major rice farmers in the state on their level of preparedness against flooding of farms is predicted, as predicted by the NIMET authorities.
2018, over 300 hectares of rice farms in Igworiaki and Igwomo, in Ovia Northeast and Ovia Southeast local government areas of the state were destroyed by flooding. Farmers, especially those in the riverine areas, are always worse hit when flooding occurs. Seasonal forecast is one strategy used by the federal government to mitigate the impact of flooding. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Edo State, uses consistent weather forecast sensitization of the farmers to avert major losses.
So we have advised our farmers on the crops to cultivate and the months they are what they are to cultivate. Early cultivation is key. And in those states, we know the areas that are usually flooded. These are communities along the bank of River Niger, talking about Agenegbode, Anegbete, Osimegbe, Odochi, Aziz. And the major crop they cultivate is rice. And we know we have two types of rice, the upland and the lowland rice.
For the farmers, early planting and harvesting before the onset of heavy rains have reduced their woes over the years.
The heavy rainfall, we now decide to be using a quick maturing product like Faro 44. We plant it on time, then use water pump to support it till the rain will start falling. By the time the water will be coming, we'll be harvesting. Then after the harvest, when it is season again, we plant along again. Then we use water pump to pump it. Okay, that's what our size. That's the system we are using now.
What we always do, we plant early and we harvest early. That is all. And we make preparation of buoys and boats so that when the flood is coming, we can enable to pack our goods.
According to the 2021 seasonal NIMET forecast, while most parts of the country are likely to have the usual length of growing season, only 300 days have been predicted for the southern part of the country.
The report from Benin takes us to our break tonight. When we return, we sustain the conversation through a couple of tweets that have come in. Stay with us.
Face should not mask your beauty. The primary purpose of a face mask is to protect the wearer from bacteria, dust, pollen, and viruses such as COVID-19. But now that face mask has become part of our daily wardrobe and accessories, Transgreen Nigeria Limited is introducing O-Care colors. O-Care medical face mask now comes in different colors to match your unique style and different attires. O-Care medical face mask is comfortable to wear, easy to breathe through, and does not leave marks or rashes on your face and can be specially branded to suit your taste. You can get your O-Care medical face masks today from pharmacies and supermarkets near you. O-Care.
Protection you can trust. O-Care. coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned. NIMET Prediction 2021 farming season is the focus once again tonight. A couple of tweets came in as we went on break, and the very first is directed at the DG NIMET. It's coming from Anche Danladi. It says, Mr. DG NIMET, why is it hard for we in Kaduna State and environs to have rains up till now? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. If you could remember vividly, exactly about three weeks ago, we issued out an alert for false onset. It rained consecutively for 2 days in Kaduna, and that was a false rainfall. Just what we experienced within the transition period. In between the bigger seasons, that is the dry and wet season, we have in between seasons. So the season before, the transition before the rainy season, and also transition after the rainy season. So in Kaduna, the onset dates are not yet matured, and the rains will be well established by middle of May in Kaduna to third week of May. So all these things, rains are preparatory rain that signals that the season is coming, and is meant for land preparation, for acquisition and procurement of inputs such as fertilizer and coal. So the rains are not well established in it's just the coastal areas and a significant portion of the southwestern states that the rains have stabilized. So if you look at our forecast, it signifies this, that the north central states will have their rains beginning from the middle of this April to second to third week of May, and this is what we are witnessing. So we're in transition. So and the rains will come. So but it's just to be on the alert, and also do not rush to plant, especially the last report from Edo, because they have alternative source of water that they can irrigate. But areas in the north where some locations that are not close to rivers or source of water like dams, there's no way you can provide that supplement. So it's very dangerous we have a local planting, early planting terminology we call binne. So that is very dangerous, and even if the seeds survive, it must have suffered a lot of heat, and also insects also destroy this. So and it will not give a very good yield. So the Kaduna listener and the viewer, please just prepare for the commencement of the season. So
Kaduna is not an exception.
Yeah, it's not an exception, exactly.
From the forecast.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, the next one is a very strong message coming from somebody highly placed in government. It's coming from the Chairman, House Committee on Agricultural Colleges and Research Institutions of the House of Representatives, Honorable Munil Baba Danagundi. Yes. The first line goes to Gideon. Gideon, listen clearly and react to it before I take the second line to the DG NIMET. It says, good evening. Well done for this important program. Please permit me to make an observations as follows. 1. The program ought to have invited a scientist who specializes in seed development because it's more important than fertilizer, considering seed as a key input in agriculture, which is 50% of agricultural productivity. Also, seed that are tolerant to flooding as well as drought are already developed and released in the country. Gideon, how do you react to this?
Yes, I agree completely. Like I said, we are part of an ecosystem, okay? The input space, we're not exactly excluded from what is happening in the general agri ecosystem. So I do agree that we also have to look at the seeds, and the president of the Farmers Association alluded to that it's not just one group or factor working in silos, but it's a system that works to ensure that we have the kind of results that we need. Of course, there's a lot of work that has been done, particularly in the area of seed breeding and coming up with varieties that are drought tolerant. So these seeds are already they are available there for seed companies to take and multiply. I saw the report you just showed earlier of the farmer in Edo State that have adopted different strategies to be able to manage their peculiar situation with respect to flooding. So they don't plant Pharaoh 44 as early as others do. You know, everybody has to adopt a system that works for them. So I completely concur that the seed component has to be looked into. But having said that, it's also important to note that there's a lot of work that has been done. I think that's one challenge we have in this country. There's a lot of work that is being done. The president of AFAN alluded to this too, but it seems to be done in silos. So there's a need for a coordination for us to have that kind of boom effect that we're trying to see in agriculture. There's a lot of work that has been done in the seed space, fantastic work. Credit to this administration. In addition to our bill in the fertilizer space being passed, the Seed Act was also passed. But many may not be aware that we have a lot of seeds that have been developed specific to our own ecology and also designed in ways that address some of what we have already termed as shifting climate change. But in terms of getting these seeds to the hands of business seed companies to be able to multiply them, a certified seed before farmers will buy, that's where you have a big gap and you have a big challenge. So there's a lot of work that has been done, and I think it's a good suggestion to have everybody speaking so that we can have the same effect. But I surely don't agree that seeds are more important than fertilizers, but we're not competing. Thank you.
So much, Gideon. Well, the second line of his thought coming from Honorable Munil Baba Danagundi, who is the chairman, House Committee on Agricultural Colleges and Research Institutions, House of Representatives, is directed at the DGNAM. It says, I'm a stakeholder in the agricultural sector. Apart from being an active farmer, I have never received any invitation from NIMET. So I wonder which stakeholders did they invite? So lastly, I want to commend you for this program, but emphasis should be on research and development as it relates to weather uncertainty. I think Kabiru raised a couple of issues before we went on break. So how do you react to that?
Okay, maybe just to start with the honorable member's comment.
Yes.
We normally invite different categories of stakeholders during the public presentations. Including Senate, all the rainfall-sensitive sectors in the Senate, especially 2020, were invited, and we got over about 1,000 participants. and in House of Reps also, most of the rainfall sensitive sectors. But remember 2021, we're just graduating from COVID challenges, and then so we're having limitations of invitees to physically come. So most of our stakeholders participated virtually. We got about 1,300, but as you made mention of this committee, I've already noted it.
Yes.
And if he can send his email, we're going to include him in our list.
I believe you listen to the program.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Follow up on that.
Yeah. So it's very critical. Please, we work with IAR in ABU. We also work with NRLs. So, and some of these coordinated activities in these agricultural colleges, and we have seen a very good window of relaying this information through this platform. So, Honorable, we are a major stakeholder, and maybe we apologize for omitting you. It must be it was not intentional, but we look at all the committee members, especially, so if we're going to invite everybody, we're going to breach the COVID protocol. So, but we apologize, but you are a major stakeholder, and we would like to work with these colleges of education, agricultural colleges across the country, especially in putting some of our products on experimentation, and also we are adopting what we call community adopted villages. So they have gone very far in this, and NIMED is also lining on this. So we are identifying communities around Abuja that will be our adopted villages, so that even if you come up with the fresh products in agriculture or any sector, we're going to test the product with the community, and then also we'll also do a lot of sensitization and advocacy, so that we document this, and then it becomes like a pilot project, and then we expand. So thank you so much, Honorable, for the, I'm sure you're very much in. It's the interest that must have provoked this.
Let's quickly go to Kabiru. Before we went on break and took a couple of reports, you raised very deep issues which we can't even contain within the space this program allows. But let me quickly ask you this, a kind of slight digression, but very important to this discuss. Until sometime last year, some of us got to know that flooding in itself may appear a disaster in our climb. But in other climes, they even pray for floods, and they harvest this water for agricultural purposes. Is your association thinking towards utilizing floods for agricultural purposes? When we see flood, we cry over it. But other climes, when they see flooding, they harvest it, channel it somewhere, and utilize it subsequently for agricultural purposes. Are you thinking towards this direction?
Well, it is good to think towards that direction, and I believe in very small scales people do it, because when there is a flood anywhere, the neighboring communities use that water to really cultivate their produce. And when the floods recede, the flood waters recede, they also plant there, so that sometimes we even have two cropping seasons. You know, you can take advantage of floods as well. That's, I think, what you are talking about. And largely, we should also be able to encourage people to even do harvesting, to do rain harvesting. Let us be able to confine rains to some confinements and use the rain's water afterwards. It's a very germane thing to agriculture. And, you know, I alluded to even doing agriculture all year round. So we are not doing it on a grand scale, but I can assure you that when we had floods in Kebbi, the neighboring places, there is about 271 kilometers that was affected. The neighboring places used that water to get it into their lands. They did their own tunnels, and the water got in there and they used it. And this is what we do. Every farmer knows this, that you need water to do this, so you get water from any source. So you may take advantage of some other people's misfortune, but then it happens. You know, it's a survival thing. It's an instinct. But we would welcome an idea that we should be able to do this on a grand scale, and that involves some involvement of government. We know the channelization of water from the water resources and all that should come in to help. In other places, I told you, they're even using groundwater to do all year round agriculture. They buy big machines to be able to drill for water, go to hundreds of meters down there and get water. So here, when we get the abundance of water and even flooding, we should be able to use that water and to keep it into places where it will be called upon or used, just like other people do, you know, in the villages. They have small ponds that don't dry up, and they use it to do their dry season farming. We should be able to do that. And we welcome any assistance to in that direction. You know, we are poor people, or we'll get there. Farmers someday will be the richest people in this country.
Ibrahim, we'll take our next line of reports beginning with Bauchi, then we go to Enugu. From Bauchi comes a report that coming from the heels of NIMET prediction for the year, farmers have expressed confidence towards overcoming the likely negative impact of the prediction on farming activities, considering the level of their preparedness so far.
According to the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, normal to above normal rainfall is expected across the country. It also forecasts that the length of farmers' season will span between 110 days in the extreme north and over 300 days in the south, while most places are likely to have their usual length of season. State Meteorological Officer in charge of Bauchi State, Buba Sule, says Al-Aleri and Tafab-Aliwe local government areas of Bauchi State will have their onset of rain on May 15, 2021.
The rainy season will start by 15th of May. Last year's prediction and this year's prediction has less than 100 millimeters, maybe 10-20 millimeters differences. And the highest has always been Bauchi Metropolis. So even this year, the highest rainfall will be recorded in Bauchi Metropolis. The earliest onset will be in Al-Kileri and Tafa-Balewa.
The project has packaged series of sensitization for farmers in the state through the media and village extension workers who will adequately educate farmers through techniques that will best suit the climate prediction.
The AEP, through their extension unit, always have package for the farmers based on the prediction.
And our last big report tonight is coming from Enugu, and it says heavy rainfall, which results to flooding, is one of the natural disasters that could cause possible food scarcity in the country if not properly managed. However, NIMET has given the prediction. The report.
The NIMET says normal to above normal annual rainfall is expected throughout the country. This prediction is to get farmers abreast with the future occurrence that could affect farming. Over the years, some farmers, especially those at flood-prone sites, have experienced losses resulting to poor harvest and food scarcity. In some localities in Enugu State, such as Adani, a rice-producing community, have witnessed challenges of heavy rainfall, wind, flooding, which resulted to farm degradation and damage of crops. To this end, some stakeholders say government is embarking on sensitization of farmers to be wary of farming in erosion-prone areas, construction of flood channels through urban and rural planning. They also say that provision of upland variety of crops to farmers would salvage the likely negative impact of this year's NIMET's prediction.
It's the blockage of these waterways that mostly lead to this flooding that destroys things. If you are planting around the riverbank and you've had that there will be heavy rain that could lead to flooding, all you need to do is either you go early, plant early, and harvest early.
By this kind of prediction, and if it plays out, given that you will have less people now in farm, because people are scared to venture There are normal farms when people have to travel, you know, farm and come back. Nobody wants to go and work for nothing.
They also appealed for farmers and government proactiveness in responding to flood cases in the state. Now that Nigeria is facing economic hardship, all hands must be on deck to ensure safety of farmlands for greater yield.
The report from Enugu is the last report for tonight on the program. Now, we'll sustain the conversation now. DG, it looks as though in looking at this, we are looking, although our focus is the 2021 farming season, but you have other stakeholder groupings. Besides agriculture, we're looking at telecommunications, water resources management, transportation, power, health, and disaster risk management, among others. In marshalling out your points, I know you mentioned them. If, for instance, you have predicted for 2021 farming season, and a telecom service provider didn't follow up to take a few things into consideration, signals fails, the farmers will not be reached. Ditto for transportation, ditto for health. If the health sector does not adhere, farmers will get sick and not be attended to. So how do you interface with this, and how do you link them up? Remember, somebody somewhere I think one of the guests or a report talked about the need for coordination, people not to work in silos.
Yes, just as I mentioned earlier, that in the ecosystem we call climate services value chain, you need to have full coordination. And luckily in Nigeria, NIMET spearheaded, served as the lead in the technical committee for the developing the national framework for application of climate services, NFACS. And this framework is so beautiful that it brings all the stakeholders on board. The focus producers, research organizations, enablers, MDAs, including also users, so that we have a network of vertical and horizontal interaction among all this. This framework is awaiting the ratification by the Federal Executive Council, and when it comes on board, it will really help in coordinating all this relevant. So stakeholders, in our focus, we look at all these sectors. They contribute directly or indirectly to the growing, especially for farmers, like the health component. We provide in the report, in the prediction, we do meningitis and malaria forecast because so that the health ministry will integrate this focus in planning for their supplies, in planning for stockpiling and distribution also. So because when there is epidemics, it affects productivity generally. And of course, the focus we provide for land transportation and so, like for aviation is per minute per second, we are in the sector throughout 24/7. But for the one we provide for land transportation, at least is to first provide safety for road users, and secondly also for construction workers, also to plan their activities. When the rains are beginning to commence fully established, you don't fully engage into full construction activities. So you use the dry season months, and all dry spell period we provided to all this thing. For the telecom industry, just last 2 weeks we issued out an alert on high intensity storm that for weakened poles and some of their installation, they need to reinforce them because the first and the last rains, beginning and the cessation period also is associated with high intensity storm, wind storms that tend to destroy some of this. So when all these things affects the value chain, it generally affects the general well-being of the farmers, and of course it will have a negative impact on the productivity, and of course even the yield at the long run. So the most important thing is partnership. We just need to partner, and we all MDAs, we open up for partnership horizontally at the federal level, and then also vertically at the sub-national and the local governments level. I think when we
work more on this to provide seamless coordination, and that will reduce the vagaries of weather and climate. We are doing effective coordination with NEMA. We're doing effective coordination with Nigerian Hydrological Agency, with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. We're planning to do downscaling activities with them, and I think it's fantastic. And but we need to bring all the rainfall-sensitive sectors, almost all the socio-economic sectors of the country. This framework, when passed, will really aid in handling this issue.
Before we quickly go to Kabiru and Gideon, this angle, farmers should keep themselves abreast of weather patterns to avoid being punished over the ignorance they show on climate matters. That's one leg. You just talked about having a meeting with telecom providers.
Yes.
Earlier on, I asked you, if you meet with telecom providers to maybe reject their system or assess what they have in case of heavy storms, if they ignore and this storm comes and their facilities collapse and destroy other facilities, are there sanctions to this effect?
In the last 2-3 years, we tried to establish a partnership with Nigerian Communication Commission so that we provide them, there's what they call integrity test for some of their installations. Before you do any major installation, you need to have long-term climatic data so that you look at the maximum strength of winds for the last 100 years to help in getting the right installations. And this will really help to strengthen. So I will still, it goes down also to effective coordination. We appreciate if the industry, telecom industry, partner with Nigerian Meteorological Agency. It will help reduce the negative impacts of destruction of most of this infrastructure during high-intensity storms because the information will be used even so that you have a technical specification, effective one, that you have a standardized installation that can withstand most of the extreme events. On the other side, we're also using the platform of telecommunications. We have come up with an app that farmers could easily download, and then also we have all this focus in it, and it's very flexible, and we're even going further.
So we'll just conclude on the telecom. Let's quickly take our first caller tonight before we lose the caller.
Thank you.
Ifeanyi is calling in from Port Harcourt, River State. Hello, Ifeanyi. Hello, Ifeanyi. Well, if you're not coming up, I think you conclude on your first one.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much.
Okay, fine.
Are you hearing me? Hello?
Ifeanyi, go ahead, please.
Okay. DG, are you hearing me?
Go ahead, we are hearing you, Ifeanyi. Go ahead.
Okay, DG, sir. NIMET makes forecast annually. Farmers plant their crops. The forecast.
Ifeanyi, can you turn down the volume of the television set, please?
Okay, I repeat. DG, NIMET makes forecast annually. Farmers plant their crops. Ignorance of the forecast or partial or non-adherence to the forecast. When floods occur, these crops are destroyed, thereby creating scarcity and even hunger. Of what use are the forecasts if floods destroy the crops? How can you ensure that farmers are strictly adhere to forecasts? During the harvest season, farm produce are surplus, and even good percentage get rotten due to non-availability of storage facilities. Please, may I know, few months after, there occurs a scarcity and the price skyrockets. For how long shall storage facilities elude farmers in Nigeria? Finally, there used to be marketing boards, and are they still existing? You are aware that most of our produce fail international quality. that are rejected or returned back, what have you put in place to certify the quality of our produce before exporting to international markets? Good products set itself. Good people, good Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Ifeanyi. Maybe you react. I think the second leg of the question should go to Kabiru.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's also a cross-cutting question, but very interesting.
Absolutely.
It goes, our mandate basically is to provide advisory services for decision-making on all matters regarding weather, climate. And then we're doing this advising the federal governments and all the MDAs, and of course also Nigerian citizens. We do this especially for farmers. We are very passionate. We've even gone far to even develop what is called crop climate calendar, to give a timeline based on that year's forecast of timeline of activities from land clearing to harvesting for all the crops. So in doing this, I think we're making the information much more flexible for the farmers, and our laws does not allow us to now force users, especially farmers, to use this, must use the forecast. And that is why, as I said, in the value chain, we are producers. We have enablers, those that can also help relay the information to them, to the farmers. But basically, it's very important utilization of the forecast, and also it saves the farmers from loss. And I think you don't need anybody. You don't need somebody to force you on doing something good to you that will bring more yield, more income, and more improved livelihood. So we're still advising farmers that let them be very flexible, let them adhere to this focus, and let them be giving us even feedback. How do they feel? Are they happy? Do they get the focus the way they want it in terms of content, in terms of quality, in terms of timeliness and other things? So that will help us also to do some adjustment. I'm also very happy to render all the services required, especially in the agriculture. We are into all the sectors, but agriculture is more than 70% of the country populace participate in this sector, and also more than about 90% of it is rain-fed. That's what makes it very sensitive.
Yeah. Before we lose the next caller, we have the next caller calling from Makodi, Kene. Hello, Kene.
Yeah, hello. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening, Kene.
Thank you very much, Emily. I want to put it here clear that we, a country in Africa where we practice agriculture, I want to advise Nigerians that we should try as much as possible as a people and, adopt the system. Let us revisit the template in which we've been doing this in decades ago. We should visit the agricultural templates and try to adopt this, put it in the present tense, and then, include the mechanization of the agriculture as we practice globally. I think that will help us. While growing up as a young man then, we used to hear about agricultural extensional workers. These are very, very excellent workers in the Ministry of Agriculture across the state, or the country, so to speak. But today, as we speak, we don't have such in our various Ministries of Agriculture across the state, across the country at the federal and the state level. We should try as much as possible. Let us go back to the drawing board. The template is there. Everything is there. We have competent people. I've been listening to the guests in the studio that have been speaking excellently well. You have so much brilliant questions. You ask them, they give life to it. Why not we go back? Let us trace the history of agriculture, how we've been succeeding before now. We should try and bring this back on board. I tell you, Nigeria will be flying from anywhere it's supposed to be flying. Question of agriculture. If we do this, I think the country will move forward. And agriculture, as we know, it is something that we're not supposed to be politicizing. But for this instance, agriculture has been politicized in this country. Things that are supposed to be given to the people who are supposed to be using them in the farming implements are not given to the rightful people. And this is wrong. So I appeal to the government, and I also challenge the government at the same time. Let us revisit the template of agriculture in Nigeria. in all the 36 states, including the federal capital. Let us have this citizenship at back, at heart. The young people, as I speak to you, they are willing to work, willing not to go back to the offices, but go back to the farm. You can feed yourself. There is this saying that everything we need is on the ground. If we go back to the ground, if we dig the soil, we can get whatever we want. I want the government to encourage the people who want to go back to the farm. I want the government to encourage everybody who's supposed to go back, and let us have our country back. Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, Kene. And from Kene's call, let's go straight to Kabiru. Kabiru, I know sometime at some point you talked about the fact that the nation needs the farmer and the farmer is the nation. That's what Kene has just talked about now. The second side of Ifeanyi's call from Port Harcourt, how do you react to it?
Well, let me address Ifeanyi's question in the way that I understand him. The Nigerian psyche in terms of achievement from agriculture is such that at first we had ignored the effect of people coming into agriculture just to get loans, because loans have been popularized. We have also ignored the fact that some people are in agriculture just laundering money. They are making money from elsewhere, maybe it's through illicit activities, and they are putting it into agriculture and therefore not paying proper attention. The thing that everybody should do in Nigeria is to be their brother's keeper. Whatever you do it for the betterment of the overall society. That if in your neighborhood you are the only person who has the wherewithal of life, you will not be free from people asking you to help and things like that. So coming from there, I'm going through maybe an academic assessment of the whole situation. But the reality of Nigeria is that we must be selfless in trying to do something to help every Nigerian without any segregation. That should answer some of these fears that are being expressed by people. Coming back to the man who is talking about the other aspect of Nigeria that comes to mind, that I always mention, I always talk about when I address people, and it's our stanza, the two stanzas of farmers, of AFAN, because we feel that we should be the apex body of farmers and farmer associations, whatever they are called, by whatever name they are called, that there is no nation if there is no farmer. The nation will be great if there are great farmers. You try to understand exactly what the message we are sending. And that message should tell the world that if we adopt this, it may not just be maybe a clarion call for this to be, but it should be a definitive way of looking at these things to make everybody at least food sufficient. And that is what we should desire. That we should make all the sacrifices, and we should reach out to the people willing to put in their best to make this possible, without any segregation, without any politicization. I mean, everything we do, there is politics in it, but there will be bad politics and good politics. It doesn't matter if agriculture is politicized to the good of it all, for everybody to benefit. There is nothing wrong with that. But what will be wrong is if you politicize it to deprive other people because they don't think the same way that you do. They don't have the same, or they do not subscribe to your manifesto. Agriculture is supposed to be, and in fact in Nigeria is on the concurrent list. And we should understand that agriculture actually takes place in the states. The federal government is, or the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is just to create the enabling environment for agriculture to thrive. There is no money in the Ministry of Agriculture that would be used to really make agriculture work. But the people should be sensitized to key into the agricultural policy. And that is why you do so many things. You know, every once in a while you do the Council on Agriculture. If the government in the center is PDP, say, and there are maybe 10 other states in Nigeria that are different, they are APC or ABGA or whatever, it's when you meet together with them and they make inputs and you bring a communique that borders on all the contributions of everybody, that the whole country will have a decision, a policy that will work for all. Not when you say you want to, you know, it's only your focus that should be there and you think that everybody else will just key in. It is not. That is why it is very crucial to do this. Sensitize people and incentivize them to work in, you know, to coalesce to get the good results that we all desire. I mean, I'm talking metaphorically so that people will understand that there is a lot that can be done in agriculture. If you go to specifics, you may never really understand exactly what is going on. When you give it a lot of latitude, so many people will come in and a lot of wisdom will be used and you can achieve good results. In the 150 years ago, for instance, in the United States, the situation that we have today was what they had. They worked very hard, they thought very well. They said, okay, giving people food, adequate food, balanced and all that, will make them work better in so many sectors. And that's why America now it has the greatest economy, has a politics or a political system that everybody tends towards, even though they try to force it down our throat, but it works when it is open. It works to be democratic. It works to have transparency. It works to allow the legal system to work. And this is why you will talk of success. It is very important we do that. But all this will not work if people are hungry. There are so many groups now in this country that are almost trying to break up the country simply because they are hungry. You know, people are very poor, dejected. They have very low purchasing power and all that. So whatever they do, whatever they say is geared towards maybe some anarchy of some sort. You must be able to create the right kind of environment for people to feel that they belong and they are looked upon as human beings, not subhuman. And therefore, you get good results if you do that. And this is where, you know, take countries, small countries like Singapore. Singapore didn't have anything. It had a very low population. It had nothing. It was a part of a certain country. They got where they are because everybody worked towards success. They had good leadership that made everybody to think in terms of building their country. And the country is okay. Our diversity in Nigeria should be a plus to us. We should be able to get everybody to work towards the success of this country. Whatever everybody can contribute should be harnessed so that we have an end product that is the envy of everybody in this world. I hope I've made my point. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, you have made your point. Thank you very much, Kabiru. We appreciate that. Now, let's go to Gideon. Gideon, you have talked so much about innovation regarding soil-specific in terms of fertilizer, and I quite appreciated the way you addressed the issues raised by the Chairman House Committee on Agricultural Colleges and Research Institutions. Have you bothered about, despite this soil-specific you have done in fertilizer, do you consider its effect or impact on output?
The goal of such innovations is ultimately that farmers will be able to maximize their output. That's the goal of why we do what we do. So the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, of which I'm part of and we're proud of, has deliberately looked inwards to say, how can we grow our capacity? Because what we used to do before as a country was allow or bring in generic fertilizers. Now, what we do in the fertilizer or the blending sub-industry is to mix fertilizers in the ratio that these crops require. Unfortunately, that capacity was weak before the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. Now, farmers can test their soils and come and say, this is the kind of nutrients that I need, and the capacity is there now to be able to give them the type of fertilizers they need. Yes, there's ongoing work that needs to be done, and that is why we'll continue to work with our big organs in the farmer associations and ask them to be able to sensitize farmers towards understanding how to come up with this type of fertilizers that work. Because there's no good story as a successful story. You know, it's very attractive. When farmers see that, you know, one farmer has tried it this way, it works, it just spreads like wildfire. Like we said earlier, this is not entirely new. We don't take credit for a lot of these things because this work has already been done. What we would particularly be excited about is the vigor. It is the speed and the commitment that we have seen, particularly on the part of Mr. President. He has given a lot of encouragement to the fertilizer industry. We started off with just about 2 blending plants in 2016. Today we have 44 blending plants, and these are not government investments. This is doing what we expect government to do, create the enabling environment, and then private sector investments will thrive. Okay, so what we have been able to see now is an industry that has been built because government decided to do the right thing. So what we want to see is that sustainability, where I don't need to go to government to talk to our farmers. We don't need that wedge. That wedge has to be removed. So we need to get there as a country where input is talking directly to the people who need it, and we together we are all shaping that discussion. It's not because we are depending or relying on interventions every time from government. Government can only do so much. There are so many needs that government has. So the essence is to ensure that we are able to collaborate in a way, like I said, that we will have that boom in agriculture, but not in working in silos, but working together as an ecosystem and as a family. Because it's not just about us anymore. It's about creating a space, an industry that works, a sector that works and can move from contributing 29% it's doing now to GDP to, who knows, maybe another 40, 50% like it used to do. Thank you.
Gideon, quickly, DigiDes and that tweeted issues with you at Buba Yaza. It says rainfall prediction and the usual calendar change and the beginning of rain. Does it have adverse effects in observing the usual number of months in our annual calendar months? I mean, expect concentration in the falls in some months in between. If so, is it why we witness some floods?
Okay. Yeah, I think the question is a bit, but I'll try to address it. Generally, when you look at growing season, or generally the climate of the country, I will give you an example. For the north, we have about 7-month dry season and then 5-month rainy season. For some parts of the south, we have about 7-8 months of rainy season and about 3 or 4 months of dry seasons. So what we try to do is to give details of what happens within the rainy months. And rainfall it comes in cycle of between 3 to 4 and up to 6 days cycle, and so that to replenish and also give air for the soil also to take some air and for germination to happen. So this does not affect the calendar. Okay. So, but what maybe he might have mistaken this with the crop calendar we mentioned.
Okay. Apparently.
Yes. So there's what we call the crop climate calendar. So we look at, like, for rain-fed agriculture. We look at, I will take an example of a place in Katsina State, let's say Malumfashi. The total number of growing season, let's say it's 130 days. Yeah, so, and the season, assuming, begins between end of June and ends by second week of October. So for that year, the forecast year. So we now look at the variety, maybe maize variety. I wouldn't mention any name. Okay. So this variety, we now run the detailed activities from planting, from land clearing to harvesting. So it gives specific dates that if you are going for this variety that will germinate and grow within this length of the growing season, this is the date you are supposed to plant, this is the day you are supposed to weed, this is the day you are supposed to apply fertilizer, and this is the day you are supposed to harvest. And that gives farmers tend to like this crop calendar very well. Okay. I think in our subsequent interaction, we will shed more light on this, but viewers should not mistake this with the normal calendar month. So this cropping calendar is just like a timeline, schedule of activities on the farms that help guide farmers to implement climate-smart agriculture. And this tends to be give very positive output from our experience.
Back to Kabiru. Kabiru, please, we don't have all the time, so I will not want to take it too deep. But quickly, you talked at some point about conferences, interface with other stakeholder groupings, all to boost crop produce in the country. Has this in any way worked at all?
Oh, definitely. I trained as an architect. It's because I mix with people, I attend conferences and I attend seminars, workshops that I am now able to understand the agriculture space in this country. So these things help, and the more the merrier. The thing that you come away with from a conference is your interest. If something that interests you is the subject of discussion, your attention will be there and you'll be able to come out with it. I mean, with the information necessary. I will simply take you back to NIMET, for instance. Our work, what we do in agriculture depends on rains these days. I mean, we are not yet doing the all-year-round agriculture, doing irrigation and all that as much as we should. Therefore, the information that we get from NIMET, and if they call us for any conference, we should gladly be there because we will get information that will be useful for the work we do. And Gideon spoke about when he was answering a question of seed, for instance. I say seed is a sine qua non for agricultural production. But it is not more important than fertilizer. Fertilizer, chemical fertilizer that we so much talk about, we are also forgetting that there is organic fertilizer that we have been using from time immemorial. When I was growing up, we didn't have anything like or any need to use chemical fertilizer. We were using organic fertilizer droppings from our animals and all that. And we were using it to at least do subsistence agriculture at that time. But when you boost your production by applying inputs and all that, it is very, very helpful. And because your population is rising astronomically, you need to optimize the production to be able to satisfy those conditions. That is aside. Now, let us restrict ourselves to symposia, conferences and things like that. There is no better way to get information on the business that you do than attending seminars and refresher courses and all that. Very, very critical. I run a number of companies, and you cannot sit down and study. You cannot go to school to study everything that you do. It's what you hear from people who are telling you because they have experienced it, because they have a mastery of it that you really gain so much. So in agriculture, you do need conferences and seminars, and you need to pay attention to conferences and seminars, especially when they are telling you new things. Do not come with the feeling that my father has been doing this and I have been doing this for 50, 60 years, and therefore I will not change. You can be doing the same wrong thing for 40 years, and then somebody will just wake up and tell you, look, do it this way. Why don't you say? In construction, I have experienced that, for instance. I had a very old foreman who had been making mistakes in building foundations or the substructure of a building for nearly 40 years. I told him that what he was doing was wrong. He was not reading the drawings the way they should be read. He didn't understand me, so I said, look, let me do one portion of the work while you do the other portion. Let us see how much cement, how much material we will both use to achieve the results that we desire. Of course, I used less than half what he used to get good results, and he from that time, he now accepted what I had to say, and until he died, he used to come to say hello to me. So we will go to NIMET, for instance. They will tell us information that will prevent us from having flooding or at least planting in flood-prone areas.
I'm afraid that's the much we can take from that axis on Kabiru. Kabiru, President of Farmers Association of Nigeria, it was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight, and also Executive Secretary, Fertilizer Producers Association of Nigeria, Gideon Negedu. It was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight. Thank you so much. And back here, Professor Monsu Baku Matazu, Director General, Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, and permanent representative of Nigeria with the WMO. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
And to our callers and those who sent in tweets, we appreciate you. Always make time to be part of the program. On behalf of our force, don't forget to support the NTA in the onslaught against rape and rapists.